Awesome. Well, good. I think we've got I've got just about 6:30, so we'll jump in if you're ready.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for this very special town hall. I'm Spencer Wetmore. I'm a candidate for South Carolina House District 115, which includes James Island, Folly Beach, Kiowa, and Seabrook. And I am joined tonight by my good friend, Congressman Joe Cunningham. He needs no introduction, but he is our congressman from South Carolina 1st Congressional District, and I am so honored and excited to have you here tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thanks for having me, Spencer. A great to get on here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we can jump right in just a second, but how is everything? How are y'all doing? And, how's it going being doing Congress right now with everything going on?
Kind of a loaded question. Not sure where to begin. I'll just say that if you hear a screaming toddler in the background, that means it's getting near dinner time or bath time. So bear with us here. I mean, look, things are very busy right now. There's a lot going on, obviously, in our community and throughout our country, and heading back up to DC, I think next week. But our plate has been full with casework and with trying to keep everything on track and help out with our constituents navigate through this process. But I'm not the one who's has been campaigning nonstop and is in the middle of runoff either. So
yeah, I know we've been our whole family is sort of is in campaign mode right now for sure. So it's been really good. Well, so let's jump in here. I think just a little preview for everybody tuning in. We've got sort of 3 things we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk a little bit about the environment. We've done a lot of work together on that. Talk a little bit about healthcare and everything that's going on with COVID, and then finish up by talking a little bit about social justice and racial equality issues that are on everyone's mind right now. So let's jump in. I think everyone knows that I have served as the Folly Beach City Administrator for the past 6.5 years. What you may not know is that I've had the opportunity to work with Congressman Cunningham on a lot of those issues, to include offshore drilling, which has been a signature issue for you and your campaign and your time up in DC. So what's going on with that, and what are some of the other environmental policies you're working on in Congress right now?
Well, we're still obviously, a lot of people know that our bill HR 1941 passed the House a few months back last year. It passed with bipartisan support, which we were thrilled about, and it banned offshore drilling along the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. So this just codified what essentially all the governors and the local municipalities wanted along our waterfronts. We talked to Folly's Mayor Tim Goodwin or Isle Palms Jimmy Carroll. Everyone is united on this issue, and or most people, I should say, are united on this issue. And some of this bring Democrats and Republicans together, and this requires a federal ban. These are in federal waters, so state legislation is not going to get it done and provide people with a sense of security that they need to know that offshore rigs won't be showing up anytime soon. So that bill did pass the House, and it sits over there in the laps of Senators Graham and Scott. And we've been imploring them to do something with it and to get that moving, and listen to the will of the people and what folks on Folly or James Island or down the Hilton Head, what everyone along the coast wants. They need it to be codified and to happen, and that requires Senators Graham and Scott to take action. We've been disappointed with them so far on this matter, but there are other ways to get this done, and we're looking to, as we go through the appropriations process this summer, looking to put in other measures that would provide some protections for our coastal resources. So I was on a call with Oceana and talking about the status and the progress of this same topic. So, and I told them, just so I can tell the folks here on the call and who are listening on Facebook, your voice matters. And I would encourage everyone to reach out to Senator Scott and Graham and let them know that this is important to you, and to bring HR 1941 to the Senate floor for a vote, because this is what South Carolinians need, because this threat is far from over, though, Spencer. And I appreciate everything you've done on that front.
Thank you.
I remember what boat we took out there when we were looking at that dredging project months ago.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
obviously, the our coastal resources are some things we treasure, and we need to take care of them too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, you and I have worked on everything from the marsh to the beach, but this issue was a big one for sure. You know, as a city administrator, I've had the real honor of working on a lot of different issues, and I think you and I share the same passion. I'm excited that, groups like Oceana and the Coastal Conservation League are leading us on so many things. We got the plastic bag thing that we worked on. We worked on that bill, helped a lot of our neighbors on James Island with that. You know, I was proud to be a part of the state level budget proviso here about offshore drilling that, while you're exactly right, we need the federal action to protect our federal waterways. What we can do here on the state level is to make sure that we're prohibiting the onshore infrastructure. So I was really proud and excited to be able to work on that with folks from both sides of the aisle here, down here in the State House too. So, marsh management, sea level rise, we've got a lot of opportunities to do some really good work right here in this district, which for the 115, and I think for a lot of your first congressional, is a district of islands. So the waterways and these issues are just critically important for everybody. So one of the things that I think is on everyone's mind right now is healthcare. With the COVID, we are seeing an influx of COVID cases here in South Carolina. These numbers are rising every day, and yet we're seeing the state continue to roll back protections, continue to prohibit the folks of us down here in the local government from putting restrictions in place that may keep the public safe. So what are you hearing on the congressional level about a path forward during this public health crisis?
Well, and like I said, Spencer, it's been this is kind of the topic, one of the two topics that are consuming the news and our daily lives and conversations around kitchen tables across the country. As the House put together the HEROES Act, which passed the House and was sent over to the Senate, and nothing has been done over there. I'm not sure. Any what subsequent stimulus package may come. It's going to take the Senate and the House to come together and work their way through this. One of the, in the CARES Act, obviously a lot of funds spilled down to the states and to especially small businesses that have helped them navigate it through. The Paycheck Protection Program was a big winner and provided a lot of resources to struggling small businesses. And look, anytime you're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar package, it's not going to be perfect. And I think that Congress recognized kind of the shortcomings with programs like the Paycheck Protection Program and went back and tried to remedy it. And that's why, a lot of people, when we're talking to small business owners, restaurants on Folly or James Island, they're like, hey, this 8-week period to use the funds is too short. We need to extend it. So took it from 8 weeks to 4 weeks. There's a lot of other things that need to get ironed out. And so we passed a bill that was signed into law by the president, which made some modifications to PPP. So that's what's being done on the federal side. But I'm sure most folks on this call or watching would agree that there's also the sense of personal responsibility and that we have to adhere to. So
right.
When you go out, social distancing, and recognizing that whatever restrictions the mayor or the governor or whoever puts into place, that you can always take subsequent measures to keep yourself and your family safe. I'm looking out at my backyard. We have my father-in-law who lives next door. He's a 70-year-old diabetic. And so, we probably have to take into consideration that whenever, we're exposed to the potential virus and things like that. So everyone has their own unique situation. You need to take those things into consideration as who you're around, who you're living with, who you may be exposing, because, this isn't just all about us. It's about, all of us together, family, friends, neighbors. And so, I'd encourage everybody to take those proper precautions.
Absolutely. I mean, we are only as strong as our weakest link when it comes to public health. So we definitely I appreciate that for sure. I think, one of the things that we've gotten a lot of questions about on our campaign is what can we do on the state level? Aside from immediate steps right now of, hey, how are we requiring masks? How, we're requiring them at Folly Beach City Hall. How can we take that seriously ourselves? Like you said, for just when you go to the grocery store, if you have to go out, do it carefully. But we're also, this I think is a good time for us to talk about a lot of healthcare issues. I've said before, I feel like it shouldn't require a global pandemic for us to be talking about healthcare. So on the state level, one of the things that we've talked about in our campaign a lot is the idea of expanding Medicaid. I actually just read an article the other day that a lot of the states expanding it are actually seeing net budget savings for their states when they expand the Medicaid program because, of course, the cost of having uninsured people come to the public hospitals is high. Drug and alcohol and mental health treatment programs funded by the state. Well, if you can get those folks Medicaid coverage, then all of a sudden you're actually seeing a net budget savings on top of the federal government subsidy there. So I think that here in South Carolina, we definitely have a lot of opportunities. I hope that this has been an eye opener for so many people on the importance of healthcare issues. And so, I'm excited to have the opportunity to work together and get some things done in this arena for sure.
Yeah, it's a shame, like you said, it takes a global pandemic to bring some of these things to light. We've seen that the Medicaid should have been expanded here in South Carolina, but people playing politics with people's health and lives, and it's shameful. It's brought to light too a lot of other needs that we have. Like the expansion of rural broadband and the importance of telehealth. A lot of, we talked to people at MUSC talk about their telestroke program and how it goes into these rural areas that don't have these services. And, it provides them, and it saves us money also.
Right.
So instead of, if their telestroke program shows that somebody doesn't have to be medevaced out of a rural part or transferred to a different hospital, they can be treated there. And those are cost savings for the taxpayer. And so, not to mention, life-saving equipment and healthcare for those people in rural areas that have been underserved for so long.
Right. No, my sister's a nurse up outside of Sumter. My whole family's from a little town outside of Sumter called Maysville. And so my daughter's actually up there this week, and I was talking to them about what we were doing tonight, and she's like, well, we got to make sure the internet's all right. So it's important. And
I'm working with Majority Whip Jim Clyburn on the rural broadband matter, and we have to consider that part of an infrastructure investment. And because it goes so beyond just healthcare. Whenever I hear stories about parents driving their kids up to the McDonald's parking lot to hang out in there for an hour so the kid can download their homework and then submit their homework because they don't have internet at the house or access to it, it's heartbreaking, and some kids are being left behind because of this, and that's the biggest shame in it all, is through no fault, these kids through no fault of their own, just a matter of which zip code they're born into. And so that's something that should not be a problem in the greatest country on earth,
Right. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, speaking of other issues and shameful problems really that we have, the last topic I want to talk about is criminal justice reform, but also, there are, in my mind, racial equity is so much more than criminal justice reform. We've got a lot of work to do. And last week, you and I attended the Attorneys for Justice March downtown Charleston. We appreciate your words there and the words of so many other powerful speeches that we heard. One that stuck with me was a young lady named Maya Green, and she is a recent graduate of Charleston County School District, School of the Arts. She's heading to Stanford in the fall. And she talked about what it felt like for her to grow up in a world where every day on the news, she sees people that look just like her, not living in the same way that she grew up to believe that it should be. The impact that George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor had on her. And one of the things that really stuck with me was saying, as angry and emotional as I felt like my anger needed to be perfect. It needed, if I was too angry or too emotional, people wouldn't listen to me. So I've been really encouraged that it feels like it feels different this time. I mean, I know these are issues that you've worked on. They've been issues near and dear to my heart for a long time. And I think it feels different right now. We've got, people coming together, businesses, and, the fact that we had the Lawyers for Justice March is a big deal. Coming together from all walks of life. It feels different this time. How are y'all seeing things in Congress? What are some of the things you're working on the federal level on criminal justice and racial justice issues?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Spencer. I mean, there's no doubt that this feels different, and that we can't, we can no longer just change the channel or change the news cycle. This is an issue, and we talk about how African Americans, people of color, they don't have the ability to change the channel. They live this every single day, and so when we talk about what can come of this, and we talk about what we can do, I think we have to, I look at it through a couple of different prisms. Obviously, as a member of Congress, I've got the ways I can effectuate change through legislation, and so we'll talk about that for a minute. We'll talk about the different practices through law enforcement that disproportionately impact African Americans. Chokeholds, banning those. And I think that I heard a friend of mine speak on a podcast talking about why this was different, why Mr. Floyd's death was, and I remember him saying, like, the fact that over 8 minutes and 46 seconds he was on the ground pleading for his mother, and he was having the life choked out of him with not a gun, but with a knee and hands, and that image is I think burned into everyone's mind who's seen it, and the grotesqueness of it, it's just, like I said, you can't ever forget that at all, and when you think to yourself, we're better than that as a country, we should be. So, like I said, going back to what can we do as members of Congress, obviously. Reforming police practices that impact African Americans, these no-knock warrants for drug cases, and things like that result in oftentimes abuse of power. There's a lot of things that can be done on the legislative end, and I think we're going to be having a bill come to the House for maybe as soon as next week to deal with this. Now, I know Senator Scott's working on a bill over in the Senate as well. So, I'm anxious to get something done and something put a marker down for the community. But switching gears, I think you take off your my official hat. I think about Joe Cunningham as a white male from James Island. I think about what can we be doing within my own household, with my own neighborhood, and having these broader discussions and engaging in these conversations, and not shying away from them because they're uncomfortable, and getting people to recognize that in 2020, this systemic racism does exist and does persist on our streets. And look, we can't just solely focus on law enforcement and the issues that happen there, because the fact is, police, they have a very tough job, and they're plucked from our own community. They're cut from the same fabric they are. So any shortcomings within the police force, it's an indicator of our problem as a society in whole. So in addition to positive legislation coming out of this that can fix certain problems, I hope that we recognize as a society we have some large issues we need to work through, discuss in open circles, and continue that dialogue, though.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I feel like, everything that's happening is a product of a larger bias. And I think it's one of those things that we all have to be honest about it. We have all grown up in a society of bias. And I feel like making that choice every day, what are we doing? How are we talking to our friends and our family? And I think those are really important things to say, how are we talking about it at home, and how, not just your professional hat, but how are we talking to our kids and our friends and our neighbors? So I'm really, really happy to hear you say that, because I couldn't agree more. But yeah, so I think, again, trying to tie in some of the things that we're talking about with our campaign. Um, at the Attorneys for Justice March, I was excited to hear our sitting solicitor, Scarlett Wilson, talking about reforms. I mean, that's a powerful moment to be having. And so the fact that we can talk about requiring de-escalation and what are our policies, talking about body cameras. You know, at Folly, I have the responsibility of working with the mayor and council on our budget. And so I know firsthand, I literally had a meeting this afternoon about the cost of body cameras. It's not just the cost of it, it's the storage, it's preserving the footage, and it's making it accessible. And so these are hard issues that local communities are being asked, you know, local police forces are being asked to figure out and solve. And so, you know, how can the state step in? How can the state make sure that we've got funding and preservation rules in place for that? And those are all important issues. But, you know, like you said, some of these inequities start long before we get to the criminal justice system. We've got, you know, our education policies and internet. So I feel like there are a lot of great opportunities here to really get down in and make some positive changes. So I'm very excited to hear that you guys are working on some things as well, because I definitely know we've got a lot of work to do.
and you know, it just goes to show, like, in a short period of time, we've covered everything from, you're talking about the environment, talking about the current healthcare crisis, talking about to law enforcement, racial inequality. I mean, it kind of goes to show that as a legislator, be on the state or the federal side, you're going to deal with a wide breadth of issues. And so, you know, your background in law, your background working for a municipality for Folly Beach, you know, I'm sure no 2 days are the same there, but you know, we've had the pleasure of working together on a lot of those issues. And so I understand your commitment to the Lowcountry in this area is undeniable. And I voted for you because I know you're going to be an effective voice up in Columbia, and you're going to continue being that public servant. Again, you know, you've got the tools and the resources and the experience that will serve this area well up in Columbia.
Joe, that really means a lot. Thank you. I'm excited, and I'm excited to have a chance to serve. So thank you for your vote, and thank you so much for being here tonight. This is great.
Of course. It's been fun.
Good. Well, I will look forward to keeping the work going and keeping the conversation going, but we're going to end this tonight because I know a lot of people have a lot of things going on, and it's probably Boone's bedtime and bath time. So I appreciate it. And
bath time right now. So yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, Spencer.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.